Welcome to the class on the FAR 51 deviation. FAR 51 allows contractors to use government sources of supply, in a nutshell. The problem with that, at least from our perspective, is that it's limited only to cost reimbursement type contracts. Okay? And there's some other specific situations that allow it, but for the most part, cost reimbursement. So a few years back now, we at GSA started thinking, okay, what can we do to provide more flexibility to our customers to use our procurement vehicles, specifically schedules, although it's open to all GSA contractors, which I'll talk about. So we got a lot of customer requests to build in some more flexibility, specifically as it relates to materials. Okay, everyone knows, if you're familiar with the schedules program in particular, that we have issues with materials and ODCs and open market items. And so we're looking at ways, and we're still looking at ways to address those issues. So anyway, we did a business case. Some people in this room helped develop that. And we got a deviation approved by our senior procurement executive in October of 2008. Okay, so it's been around, the deviation, for a while. We haven't done a stellar job marketing its use yet, but we're getting better, hence this class. So let's talk a little bit about what the deviation allows. It allows federal government contracting officers, not state and local governments, just federal government COs, to authorize GSA contractors to purchase items off of schedules, multiple award schedules, or GSA global supply. Okay, so only GSA contractors and the two procurement vehicles available to them are schedules and global supply. So GSA contractors isn't limited, a misconception out there is that it's only limited to schedule contractors. That's not true. Okay, it can be schedules with, or contractors with PBS, it can be GWAC contractors, it can be schedule contractors, any GSA contractor. Okay, so the federal government, when I use that term, means the federal government contracting officer who authorizes the buying contractor to use schedules or supply. Okay, the buying contractor is, these are terms we made up, okay, but the buying contractor is the contractor who has the contract with GSA. The selling contractor is the contractor who the buying contractor is going to buy from. So the government issues the authorization to the buying contractor. The buying contractor turns around and buys whatever items they're authorized to buy from the selling contractor. Okay, when I use selling contractor, it's going to be a schedule contractor, unless you're going through global supply. Okay, so global supply, the process is a little bit easier. It's just a requisition. So I'll tell you as we walk through the process steps where the global supply chain kind of ends and where we're just talking about schedules. Because remember, the only two vehicles that the contractor can use are schedules or GSA global supply. Okay, there's 4 rules around the deviation's use. Okay, the first is that the authority is limited to orders placed on a time and material or labor hour basis. Okay, and I've actually heard, and I heard even yesterday sitting in one of the GWAC meetings, misconception about this particular rule. Okay, the overall contract or order that the government is placing with the buying contractor can be fixed price. Okay, it's only the items that are to be procured using the deviation that need to be structured on a T&M basis. Okay, most commonly we see that accomplished through a separate line item or a separate CLIN. So the overall order does not have to be time and material and labor hour. It's just those particular items that the CO is authorizing the buying contractor to buy using the deviation. Okay. No fee or markup is permitted on those items. For those, usually it gets more interesting when I give this to contractors. They don't like this bullet at all, but this is the rule. Okay, no fee or markup. Pass through to the government at cost. Okay, so the second rule is that those items to be procured using the deviation's authority need to be ancillary to the overall purpose of the order. There's no definition for what that means. There's no dollar value. It's the Washington Post test. Okay, so if you don't want to do anything that's going to land you on the front page of the Washington Post. If the order's for $1 million and you authorize your contractor to buy $950,000 of that million from another contractor, you may be in trouble. That's not ancillary. The whole point is materials, okay, that are ancillary to the overall purpose of the order. And this supports that. This is specific to schedules, but if the contractor is using schedules as their procurement vehicle, they need to comply with the ordering procedures in FAR 8.4. And the kicker is that the order from the buying contractor to the selling contractor cannot require a statement of work. It has to be simple. It has to be materials or simple fixed price services. So the order from the government to the buying contractor can be ridiculously complex, can require a statement of work. But the buying contractor buying things from the selling contractor, no statement of work, simple buys. Okay, the second bullet, FAR 8.4 effective May 16th is being changed to enhance competition requirements. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. I heard it in the last class. And we can talk more about that, but just a heads up. And then I already mentioned this, that the deviation is only permitted for use by federal government COs, not state and local governments. Okay, your handout. This is the process. This handout is part of the FAR 51 ordering guide that's posted on www.gsa.gov/FAR 51. Okay, so there's an ordering guide that walks you through the entire process as well and gives you Q&As and even more information than I'm probably going to share with you today. But this map is part of that ordering guide. So the rest of the presentation is going to walk through these process steps. So it'll just help you to be able to see as we go through. And because this class is focused on customers and not contractors, I elaborate more on the customer responsibilities. I still cover the buying contractor and selling contractor steps, but I don't elaborate as much as I will tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the contractor side. Okay, this is an example that I'm throwing up here just so you have some kind of frame of reference as we walk through the steps. AMCOM, who's a huge schedule user specifically for this program, uses schedules to buy a majority of services for their development, fielding, sustainment of Army aviation and missile systems. Okay, so the fake example is that the program office for Black Hawk helicopters places a $5 million task order with a PES contractor on Schedule 871. And during performance, and let's assume that the authorization is granted to that contractor as well to use the deviation. During performance, the contractor has a need for a specific piece of test equipment. Assuming that they have the proper authorization, they can buy that piece of testing equipment from a Schedule 66 contractor, which is scientific equipment. Okay, so what the contractor would do is survey at least 3 schedule contractors following FAR 8.4 and buy the equipment. Does that make sense? This would be an example of how the FAR 51 deviation could be used. Okay, it'll make more sense as I walk through.